Okay, here we are back again for our second go-round. I'm calling this next subperiod revolutionary change because it brackets the American Revolution. Starts in 1750 and finishes up in 1850. We've got a modified class system in effect in the States. At the top of the academic ladder are the aristocrats, landed gentry, wealthy people, wealthy professionals like doctors, lawyers, merchants, and the clergy. Underneath one level, small farmers, landowners, skilled artisans, and tradesmen. Below that, propertyless hired hands. These are folks who go from job to job. Underneath that, indentured servants, paupers and convicts, and at the bottom of the scale, slaves. Even though we did have a class system in effect, it was a relatively loose one compared to that which was present in Europe. A Frenchman by the name of Alexis de Tocqueville visited the United States, and after his visit went back and wrote a book. One of the things that he said about his visit to the United States was as follows: amongst the novel objects that attracted my attention during my stay in the United States, nothing struck me more forcibly than the general equality of conditions among the people. I readily discovered the prodigious influence which this primary fact exercises on the whole course of a society. It gives a particular direction to public opinion and a particular tenor to the laws. It imparts new maxims to the governing authorities and peculiar habits to the governed. He went on to say, the more I advanced in the study of American society, the more I perceived that this equality of condition is the fundamental fact from which all others seem to be derived, and the central point at which all my observations constantly terminate. So, yes, we did have a class system, but it was not nearly as rigid as that which existed in Europe. American views regarding education at this time, and we're going to talk about the big guys immediately: George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and Noah Webster. In his inaugural address, George Washington said, "There is nothing which can better deserve your patronage than the promotion of science and literature. Knowledge is, in every country, the surest base of public happiness. In one in which the measure of government receives their impressions so immediately from the sense of the community as in ours, it is proportionally essential." So Washington is going way back to that idea of a lettered society, a learned society. And in a democracy, he says, it's extremely important that the public be enlightened. Keeping to the same theme in his farewell address, he said, "Promote then, as an object of primary importance, institutions for the general diffusion of knowledge." And that's a phrase that was used widely at the time: diffusion of knowledge, getting knowledge from a space where it is small and concentrated out into the hinterlands, if you will, where it is not so widely distributed. In proportion as the structure of a government gives force to public opinion, it is essential that public opinion should be enlightened. Benjamin Franklin made this proposal to the legislature in Pennsylvania, proposals relating to the education of youth in Pennsylvania. If you ever see this in print yourself or see the original, you will find that the spellings are extremely different. This was proposed by Franklin in 1749 and led to the first academy. And we alluded to these last time. As we'll see, academies are a lot more open than the Latin grammar schools had been, and they teach a wider variety of subjects. This is all due to Franklin. The first academy was opened in Philadelphia in 1751. On down the road, it became the University of Pennsylvania. That happened in 1779. But the idea of the academy that was Franklin's caught on, and the academy became the thing that supplanted the Latin grammar school as the primary form of secondary education. The bill for the more general diffusion of knowledge was proposed by Thomas Jefferson to Virginia in 1779. It did not pass. What Jefferson proposed was that all free white children receive 3 years of education free from the state. At the end of that time, the top 10% could go on to another 3 years. At the end of that interval, the top 10% could go on again. Jefferson saw the University of Virginia as the top of his system of layers. This is the first concept of articulated layers in this country. You'll remember Alcuin of York had an articulated system of education in France way back in the 800s. So this is not a new idea, but it's the first time that someone articulates it so that the press picks it up in this country. As I said, this was going to be free to all white children. You might think that this is just a wonderful idea that has to do with making conditions equal in society. But Jefferson called this plan the annual raking of the rabble. To his friends, he called it that. What he was doing was trying to spot bright future leaders out in the rural areas. And by his system, bring those bright kids into the system rather than let them develop pockets of rebellion that the system would then have to contend with. So he wants to bring the bright folks into the ruling group. Jefferson said, if a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be. He went on to say, there is no safe deposit, and he's talking about government now, but with the people themselves, nor can they be safe with them without information. So Jefferson is all for the diffusion of knowledge, if you will.